everybody, how's it going? And today we are playing Santa Monica from AAG and made by Josh Wood. Sarah's saying I'm a little silly for saying Josh Wood's name in such a way, but I think it's funny. So, Sarah, what is Santa Monica?
Santa Monica is sort of a tableau building game with sort of like variable scores. Every game we're going to have ways that we'll definitely score, but as we play through the game, we may acquire cards which give us additional scoring parameters. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building little beach towns. So we start with a building. I have a sort of like this like high-rise, probably like apartment style building, and Nick has a shop. And the town has a street front and a beach front. And so as we are adding cards, we will add them to the appropriate areas. Like this one would increase my street front, right? This one would increase my beach front, etc. So as we're building our tableaus, our town will sort of develop, and our beach will develop as well. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to achieve the scoring parameters that we not only draft and place into our cities, but also some just basic ones. So for example, my starting card gives me at the end of the game 1 point for every business and tourist spot that my locals will have visited by the end of the game. So it seems like it's fairly simple. There's a bit of the words are the rule book is a little wordy, but I think once we get into it, it's going to be pretty simple to pick up on, with a lot of choices and a lot of strategies that will become possible as we develop our little beach towns. So I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, I got a nice little bit bowls glass. We get even more like a retirement old folks kind of place, and the artwork's pretty nice. I'm liking it.
Would you like me to read you the the little description for the game?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. In Santa Monica, you are trying to create the most appealing oceanfront in Southern California. You can choose to create a calm, quiet beach by focusing on nature, a bustling beach full of tourists, or something in between to appeal to the locals. Each turn, you will draft a feature card from the display to build up either your top row beach or your bottom row street. These features will work together with chains and adjacency to gain you victory points, and the player with the most points at the end of the game wins.
Awesome. So let's get into it. We'll get back to you guys once we get halfway through the game, and we'll tell you how it's going so far, and then after that, back to see who the winner and loser is. So we will see you guys in a sec. Toodles! How goes it?
It goes. We are slowly but steadily developing our beach towns. I have 4 oceanfront spaces and 3 sort of like city spaces or street side spaces. And it's pretty cool. It's a pretty easy sort of drafting game where you can draft cards from the available cards here. And there's some strategy about which cards you draft, because you can only draft from the bottom row unless you use a special action. And when you draft from the bottom row, the card from the top row goes in to fill it. So you kind of control, to a certain extent, what cards are available for your opponent. So there's definitely some strategic nature there. And there's also a ton of strategy as far as because it deals with adjacency a lot. So like this card, for example, gives me 3 points if I have 1 ocean space orthogonally adjacent to it, or 5 points if I have 2 ocean spaces orthogonally adjacent to it. So I was able to get ocean spaces around it. So because of those adjacencies, I'll get some points.
And also there'll be some end of game points for having the longest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not, you don't have to compete for it. You don't have to compete for, I think, the last one. It's just,
right.
How you have built beach town.
So there's a few primary scoring objectives, and there are 3 of these cards actually. So you only ever use 1 in a game. So this gives you sort of like your primary scoring objectives for the game. And then cards that you play will also give you additional scoring parameters that are applicable only to you. So for example, like I said, with this card here, I'll get points for having these ocean spaces around here, the wave spaces.
Nice.
So that's cool. And then you have these people that you acquire when you get new cards, and you're moving them around your beach town, putting them into activity circles and in the right locations to score points and that kind of thing. So there's not tons going on, but there's enough, I think, to be at least interesting. And it feels like right now, that there's a lot of choices. You are restricted in that, like, you can only ever put the beach cards on the top, and you can only ever put the town cards on the bottom. You can only place adjacent to other cards you placed or to your central location. So there is some restrictions, but it feels like there are a lot of choices that you can make. It never feels like, I haven't been in a position yet where I've been like, I don't want to do anything that's available to me. I wish I could do something else. I've never been in that position yet. There have always been at least 2 things that I want to do on my turn. So, okay, well, maybe if he takes that card that I want, well, then I'll do this other thing. Yeah. Or maybe if this happens, then it's going to open up this other avenue. But if that doesn't happen, that's fine, because I can go over here and do this thing. So I'm having fun. I like it so far. We are only halfway through our first game, so
but the game goes by pretty quick because it's only 14 cards that you're picking. I
don't know what the box time is, but I suspect it's like less than 40 minutes, maybe
45 minutes.
Okay, so yeah, and I think once we get through scoring our first game, where we kind of actually see how everything scores, it'll definitely clarify like any other questions or confusion or anything like that I have. The rulebook was a little less than helpful, unfortunately, but it's a pretty simple game. So once you just kind of start playing, you sort of fall right into it fairly easily.
Yeah, and my little thing is going on. It's looking good.
And now you've been able to get some footprint tokens, which I have not done yet.
But yeah, it was all based on my starting. So each time I came to a beachfront or a volleyball area, I was able to leave a footprint token. So it was pretty cool. My little puppy's having issues outside. He's wolfing. But yeah, we really enjoy this. We're enjoying it, and so we're gonna see how.
It's really cute. It feels like relaxed and laid back, and the artwork is it's not. I wouldn't say it's not like gorgeous or anything like that, but it feels like a well-worn beach town.
Yeah.
Which is thematic in its own right. So
nice. Yeah. So we'll get back to you guys and see who is the winner and loser of creating a retirement old folks home beach town, or just a beach town. Let's just go with just beach town.
I wanted to be like, mine's going to be Hoppin', but so far I have a theater and that's it.
All right. Well, toodles. You have kicked my butts by how many points?
Only 3.
3. So close game. It was but it was a good time.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it, and everything was just. I love the artwork. It's just simple.
It really captures that like worn out beach town feel.
Yeah, it definitely does.
I mean, even like not just the artwork and stuff like that, even the gameplay itself is like very reminiscent of that like worn beach town feeling. I don't know how Josh did that, but he did.
Josh Wood.
I like it. I think that I would like to play again, especially now that we know what we're doing a little bit better. Although it wasn't terribly hard to figure out once we started playing.
It was just the rulebook was a little hard to understand.
Yeah, so. There's just too many words in there where they could have used like 2 words. They chose to use like 6. And while I appreciate like specificity, I don't necessarily appreciate doing that in such a way that's not brief. So brevity and specificity always. I understand like it's a balancing act to get those 2 in good measure, but I would have appreciated a little bit more brevity and a little less specificity in the rulebook, just because it feels like they gave me too much information and it wasn't like the additional information was helpful. So it just sort of clouded things and made it a little frustrating to try to figure out what exactly they were trying to say. However, the game itself is pretty simple, and I felt fairly confident after the first few turns that we were doing everything correctly, that we were understanding everything properly, and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, the rule book is not my favorite thing, but the game itself is pretty simple to pick up on.
Yeah, awesome. I think we only needed to go to BGG one time.
Yes.
And that was for
And honestly, that was because I couldn't find it in the rulebook. It was in there, I just couldn't find it. And then after I checked BGG, I went back to the rulebook and looked again, and I was able to find it that second time. So, so yeah, it was in there. Just I didn't find it the first time.
This is a win in our book, and if you all are interested, go check it out. If you get a copy, or
if you like games that have like adjacency bonuses, or where you can sort of get like not quite an engine built where like something is happening, but that similar feeling to engine building where like, oh, I have this, and because of that this happens, and then this scores because I have this other thing. If you like that sort of feeling in engine building games, then I would definitely recommend this one. It's got a lot of neat scoring parameters where like, if this is in your city somewhere else, then you get points, or if this is near this thing, you get some more points, or that kind of thing. So if you like that sort of thing, I would definitely check this one out. It's fairly simple, but the complexity comes through in like the potential combinations that you have here. And that's still fairly light, but
and that's how you want to, play more, because you see that while you play the game, and you can't do it because it's only 14 cards that you're acquiring.
Yeah, it's really not that long.
It's fast, but it makes it feel like there's a lot to do, because you're also dealing with you're also dealing with a lot of tokens. Not a lot of tokens, but like potentially.
Well, and also like there are different ways to score. So like this is the primary way for this game that we were both going to score. But then as we added more and more cards to our tableau, we increased how we would score. Like for example, this card right here, it let me score either 3 or 5 points. If adjacent to this card, I could get wave cards. If I could get just one wave card adjacent to it, then I'd get 3 points. But if I could get 2 wave cards adjacent to it, then I'd get 5 points. So I was able to do that. And that was interesting too, because like I had this wave card in place already when I drafted this card. So when I put it here, I was like, okay, if I can't pull off the 2 wave cards to the right of this card, well, I do have the 1 wave card to the left of this card. So even if I can't manage to pull off the full point value of this card, I'll get the lesser point value of the card. So even like the placement, there was even some strategy like that where you could kind of plan ahead a little bit. Nothing ever really felt like it was just like ruined, like you'd made a mistake that just like ruined everything. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that was Santa Monica by Josh Wood and also AEG. And all right. Well, until next time, we will see you guys later. Doodles.